Welcome to the Big D Breakdown. I'm your host, Larry Lease, and after a vacation, we are back, and we're diving into the latest headlines surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. So starting off, we're going to talk about 3 Cowboy stars that could follow Dak Prescott out the door in 2025. It's really anyone's guess what the Dallas Cowboys do with quarterback Dak Prescott. While Ian Rappaport's explosive report earlier in the week might have been exaggerated for social media engagement, he wouldn't have said a path has been cleared for Prescott to reach free agency in 2025 if there wasn't a chance of that happening. CBS Sports has since contradicted Rappaport's intel. Per Josina Anderson, the Cowboys want to work out an agreement with Prescott, and that a deal could happen as soon as before next season. Anderson added that the team is not presently charting a path to let Prescott go to free agency, despite some chatter to the contrary. That's reassuring, but the longer Prescott goes without a deal, the more likely it becomes he walks next year. If that were to happen, Dallas could blow it all up and move on from other high-profile players. With that in mind, we're going to dive into some Cowboy stars who could follow Dak right out the door in 2025. So, of course, starting off at number 3, you got to go Brandon Cooks. The Cowboys made a genius move last March when they renegotiated Brandon Cooks' contract, turning $8 million of Cooks' $12 million salary into a signing bonus, giving him an $8 million base salary in 2024, which is a bargain for a 6-time 1,000-yard receiver. A free agent in 2025, though, it's hard to envision Dallas re-signing Cooks if Prescott leaves. At that point, Cooks would be entering his age 32 season. Praised for consistency throughout his career, Cooks has failed to top 60 catches and 700 receiving yards in back-to-back seasons. In Cooks' defense, he's still a fringe number 2 that can take the top off a defense, while his production fluctuated throughout the 2023 season. His 8 touchdowns were one of his career high and his most since 2016, his 3rd year in the league. Trading for Cooks was a brilliant move by the Cowboys, one of a select few over the last handful of years, but we're hard-pressed to see this partnership lasting more than 2 years, given Dallas would be starting over at quarterback. Number 2, Demarcus Lawrence. This one would really sting. Demarcus Lawrence is on the record of saying he wants to be a lifetime Cowboy. Luckily, the terms of his contract make that a possibility, but again, nobody would be safe if Dallas embraces a fire sale. Last March, the Cowboys restructured Lawrence's contract, converting most of his $15 million salary into a signing bonus to clear cap space. As a trade-off, though, Lawrence will count an extra $4.5 million against the 2024 and 2025 salary cap. While Lawrence will count $20 million against the cap this year, he's on the books for just $7.4 million in 2025. The Cowboys could simply extend Lawrence, who had one of his best seasons in 2023. They wouldn't save any money cutting or trading, but the $7.4 million dead cap charge is doable. Lawrence is the glue of the locker room and a stud on the field. But how much sense would it make to commit more money to a 32-year-old defensive end after the franchise quarterback just left? Micah Parsons is clearly ready to carry the torch, and Sam Williams might show enough this year to warrant a starting role in 2025. At number 1, Zach Martin. If the Cowboys really hit the reset button, yes, Zach Martin could be gone in 2025. Martin's contract got reworked this month to clear $13 million in cap space this year, but it also altered the future years of his deal that would lessen the blow on the 2025 salary cap if this is his final year. Due to multiple restructures of his contract over the years, the Cowboys would take a huge loss if Martin were released or traded. According to Over the Cap, they'd save $1.25 million and inherit $9.4 million in dead money if he was released with a post-June 1st designation. If traded before June 1st, Dallas would save $15.8 million, but have to eat over $26 million in dead money. It's unclear what path the Cowboys would take. Maybe Martin retires, but they have seemingly prepared for 2025 to be a reset year, as they absorb an ungodly amount of dead money. That way, they'd only be tied to 3 big money deals beginning in 2026, Trayvon Diggs, and hopefully CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. Nevertheless, Martin's restructure last summer guaranteed him an $18 million salary in 2023 and 2024. He's owed just $9 million in 2025. that isn't going to cut it for one of the best guards in football and a future Hall of Famer. The fact that Dallas wants to lessen the blow on the 2025 cap is very notable. Excuse me. While we've been taking a look at some of the players that could leave with Cowboys as he exits the team, we're going to take a look at 4 teams that Prescott could leave the Cowboys for next offseason. Stop us if you've seen this before, but contract negotiations between the Cowboys and Prescott have hit a snag. It appears Prescott could play out the final year of his contract in 2024 and potentially reach free agency next offseason. We won't believe that till it actually happens, so obviously everybody's speculating. Some say it's going to happen, some say it won't. It's always possible Prescott and Dallas reach an agreement after the season, but if he's allowed to test the open market, he will have no shortage of suitors. Good quarterback play is hard to come by in the NFL, and Prescott would be the best free agent at the position in recent memory. The 35-year-old Kirk Cousins, coming off a torn Achilles, got a 4-year, $180 million deal from the Falcons. Prescott is going to fetch a lot more than that, and he'll likely have a bidding war of teams vying for his signature. So we're going to look at the most likely teams that will pursue the 2-time Pro Bowler if he reaches free agency. Starting off at number 4, we got the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks confused just about everyone when they traded for Commanders quarterback Sam Howell after they shipped Drew Lock to the Giants. Granted, every team needs a backup, but that wasn't exactly a vote of confidence in starter Geno Smith. Smith has made the Pro Bowl in each of the last 2 seasons, throwing for 50 touchdowns to just 19 interceptions while completing over 67% of his passes. Smith also finished 9th in MVP voting in 2022. Those are nice stats, but Seattle is just 18-16 over that span with 0 playoff wins. They missed the playoffs entirely in 2023. The Seahawks don't have much cap space in 2025, but cutting or trading Smith would save $25 million. And they have decisions to make on Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Leonard Williams, each of whom have cap hits north of $29 million. By the time Seattle performs some housekeeping, they'll have more than enough cap room to sign Prescott. Their defense is in good hands with head coach Mike McDonald, and they have plenty of firepower on offense in Metcalf, Lockett, and running backs Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. A move to the Pacific Northwest could entice Prescott. But number 3, we got to consider the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton wasted no time kicking Russell Wilson to the curb, but the financial ramifications are historic. The Broncos are eating $39 million this season and take on $85 million in dead money between 2024 and 2025. It's the largest dead cap hit in league history. Wilson's dead cap hit in 2025 will be $32 million. Though crippling, Denver doesn't have any other bad contracts on the book. In today's NFL, teams can navigate lofty cap hits and build a Super Bowl roster. If you can believe it, the Broncos are slated to have $93 million in cap space next year. Another important factor here is Peyton's motivation. The head coach did not appreciate Wilson's style of play, and he might not have the patience to draft and develop a young quarterback. With the number 12 overall pick, Denver isn't in a position to draft one of the top 4 guys. Do we really think Peyton wants to reach on a player like Bo Nix, who's already 24 years old? Joining an AFC West that already has Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert would be a drastic change for Prescott, who's owned the NFC East throughout his career. However, the Broncos weren't far off from making the playoffs last year with Wilson under center, and Prescott would represent a major upgrade. Up next, number 2, the New York Giants. Prescott ending up in East Rutherford would be a nightmare for the Cowboys and their fans, but it's certainly a possibility. New York has all but confirmed this is Daniel Jones' last season with the teams. Jones has no guaranteed money left on his 4-year contract after this 2024, so the expectation is the Giants will cut him loose next offseason. The pre-draft buzz seemed to hint at the Giants selecting a quarterback in the first round, but the 6th overall pick leaves them in a precarious position. Does UNC's Drake May potentially fall that far? Will they reach on Michigan's J.J. McCarthy? Or potentially take Washington's Michael Penix Jr. in round 2? If New York doesn't come away with a quarterback in round 1, that swings the door wide open for them to pursue Prescott in free agency. They only have $34 million in cap space in 2025, but moving on from Jones would free up $30 million, and they net additional funds if tight end Darren Waller retires. Excuse me. Head coach Brian DeBall are under immense pressure after the Giants won 6 games last season after their playoff appearance in 2022, excuse me. Signing Prescott would answer all of their questions at quarterback. And finally, at number 1, it's the New England Patriots. The Patriots are positioned to select a quarterback with the number 3 overall pick, but new head coach Jared Mayo hasn't committed to doing so. It would obviously be foolish of Mayo to reveal the team's intentions, but it seems New England isn't a lock to draft a quarterback. It's been rumored that the Pats don't love UNC's Drake May, who could be the top quarterback available, assuming Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels go 1 and 2 to the Bears and Commanders. Additionally, Mayo has hinted at the possibility of trading back to stockpile more picks. Having a quarterback on a rookie deal is the easiest path to get to a Super Bowl. But it stands to reason the Patriots don't want to risk whiffing on another quarterback after the Mac Jones experiment went up in flames. New England will have the most cap space in the league next year at a whopping $159 million. That's more than enough to afford Prescott, who will likely command north of $60 million per year. The Pats need to build up their receiving core, but they already have a dependable tight end locked up in Hunter Henry and a promising tandem of running backs in Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. They have a strong defense and are seemingly a quarterback and number 1 receiver away from getting back into contention. Signing Prescott would leave them one piece away, and they could draft Marvin Harrison Jr. 3rd and sign a big-ticket free agent next year for what it's worth. The 2025 free agent class of wide receivers is absolutely stacked. So before we move on, let us know in the comment section below, who do you think will try to take Prescott away from the Cowboys? Do you think he will be a free agent? Or do you think Jerry Jones and company are going to keep him? So if Prescott does leave the Cowboys and join another team, we're going to take a look at 3 teams or 3 targets that the Cowboys should take a look at when they look for a new quarterback. And these 3 are better than Trey Lance. The Dallas Cowboys are doing Dallas Cowboy things this offseason. Stephen Jones continues to flex his muscle in the front office, and that means they're doing some serious bargain shopping. They went incredibly cheap in free agency and are now playing a dangerous game of chicken with Dak Prescott. Social media has come alive with jokes about the cheap nature of Jones, but there are some serious consequences he's flirting with. The main one comes from a complete lack of leverage in the negotiations with Prescott. Dallas cannot tag their quarterback, meaning he can walk in 2025 if they go too far with this approach. If so, they might be able to lean on Trey Lance, but that's not an ideal option. Instead, they could look at one of these 3 replacements, which would be better than Trey Lance. Starting off at number 3, you got Jameis Winston. Taken first overall back in 2015, Jameis Winston did something incredible in his last season with the Buccaneers. The Florida State star somehow managed to be good enough to lead the NFL in passing yards with 5,100 yards while throwing 33 touchdowns. He also managed to be bad enough to throw 30 interceptions. Tampa Bay moved on after that campaign, and no one could blame them since they signed Tom Brady and won a title. Winston joined the New Orleans Saints, starting 10 games over the past 4 seasons, 6-4 with 2,300 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 11 picks. This year, he's the backup to Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns. They believe he's an improvement upon Joe Flacco, which is saying something considering he won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. Winston is known for his incredibly goofy workout videos, which put Dak Prescott's hip movements to shame. These videos have made him a walking meme, but in all honesty, He would be a decent bridge quarterback and a step up from Lance. Number 2, Bo Nix. If Dallas did want to go for a bridge quarterback, they could turn to the NFL draft for their next long-term starter. Fortunately, the options in 2025 aren't looking great at this point. The 2024 class, however, has a lot of talent. Near the top, there's Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels, who will all go early. There's also a chance J.J. McCarthy goes in the top 10, and Michael Penix has been getting some love as well, thanks to his growth after joining Washington. Another signal caller who gets lost in the crowd is Bo Nix from Oregon. Like Penix, Nix spent a long time in the NCAA. He began his career in 2019 with Auburn and was there for 3 seasons. He never broke out for the Tigers, transferred to Oregon before the 2022 campaign. Once there, he had a good season with 3,500 yards and 29 touchdown passes against 7 picks. In 2023, he put those numbers to shame. As a redshirt senior, Nix had 4,500 plus yards with 45 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions. In addition to his work with his arm, Nix proved he can hurt teams with his legs. He finished his collegiate career with 38 rushing touchdowns, 20 of which came in Oregon. Nix has plenty of arm strength to be an NFL quarterback, and while he needs to clean up his footwork, he has the look of a first-round pick. In this class, he might slide into round 2. Dallas could walk away from this draft with a plan in place if they were to trade down, add extra capital, and groom Nix for a year before handing him the reins. At number 1, Justin Fields. The Chicago Bears have the number 1 pick in the upcoming NFL draft, which will be used on USC quarterback Caleb Williams. That means Justin Fields was going to be done as the starter in the Windy City. It had to be frustrating for Fields, who was forced to do far too much on his own in Chicago. They never hired an offensive-minded coach, and they waited until his 3rd season in the NFL to get him a legit number 1 receiver. Once they added DJ Moore in a trade with Carolina, Fields showed steady improvement. He started 13 games in 2023 and had over 2,500 yards passing with 16 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is there a quarterback you think the Cowboys should take, either in the draft or free agency, or even a possible trade? Let us know. And now, on to our next topic. We're going to talk about some worrying CeeDee Lamb news, which also is more humiliating for Cowboys after the big Eagles news. Have the Dallas Cowboys done anything right this offseason? Hiring Mike Zimmer and signing Eric Kendricks were nifty moves, but the draft is a little over a week away, and neither Prescott nor CeeDee Lamb have signed contract extensions. Lamb's deal seems to have taken precedence over Prescott's. Cowboys' history of giving premium contracts to their top receivers bodes well for Lamb. They run the risk of Lamb's price tag skyrocketing the longer they drag this out. Dallas also runs the risk of Lamb not practicing with the team until training camp. A report last week from the Dallas Morning News hinted that Lamb wouldn't report the voluntary workouts without a new deal. Sure enough, Lamb wasn't at the facility for Monday morning's team meeting. More worrisome is the fact that Lamb isn't expected to show face at the Star anytime soon while he awaits a new deal. Already a terrible look, this Lamb update looks even worse after the Eagles and wideout Devontae Smith agreed to terms on a lucrative extension. It's so fitting that this happened right after Smith's extension. Smith got a 3-year, $75 million extension with $51 million guaranteed. Smith's $25 million salary is now tied with Eagles teammate A.J. Brown for the 4th highest AAV at the position. His guarantees are 9th among receivers. You know what that means? Lamb's price tag just went up. Smith is a great player, but he's very clearly the number 2 behind Brown. If a number 2 who's never surpassed 100 catches in a season can net $25 million annually, how much will Lamb demand? For context, Lamb has the most catches, 242 in the league, and 2nd most yards, 3,106, and touchdowns, 21, over the last 2 seasons. It's embarrassing that the Eagles signed Smith before the Cowboys signed Lamb. Smith was drafted a year after Lamb in 2021, and Lamb's been eligible for an extension for over a calendar year. At the end of the day, it's not a huge deal that Lamb isn't at voluntary workouts. The collective bargaining agreement states that the first 2 weeks are exclusively for strength and conditioning. Lamb is a workaholic, so he's obviously working out on his own accord. A player of Lamb's caliber doesn't need OTAs either. Those get going on May 24th. His chemistry with Dak Prescott is already elite, and mandatory minicamp isn't until June 4th to 6th. Even if Lamb's holdout extends into July, he's fine for missing all of minicamp and parts of training camp. There's no reason for fans to overreact. The deal will get done eventually, but it's perfectly fitting that the Eagles got Smith signed a year ahead of time, just as word spread that Lamb won't be at voluntary workouts, because the Cowboys waited until the 11th hour to sign their superstar receiver. And that is all we have for this episode. Of course, before we go, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Game Time. Are you ready to catch the Dallas Cowboys live? With Game Time, you're always just a few taps away from witnessing every thrilling touchdown and game-winning field goal. Secure the best seats at the best prices, even at the last minute. Don't miss a moment of the action. Get your tickets through Game Time and join your fellow fans for an unforgettable Cowboys experience. Are you ready to feel the excitement of the stadium? Click the link in the description to secure your tickets to the Cowboys for the upcoming season with Game Time. Game Time is available on Android and iOS devices. And before we go, give us a thumbs up if you like our video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification button to be notified of future videos, and of course, subscribe to us on all major podcast platforms. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. Your support goes directly into this channel. We can upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and hopefully take this show on the road. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.